I wanted to take a quick second to talk about a show I just cannot bring myself to watch anymore, and that show is NCIS. Now, one of the great things to come out of the last 2 years is these great, expert crafted critiques of Star Wars The Last Jedi. You knew the movie was garbage, and if you fought the cognitive dissonance, if you fought the wave of people trying to tell you that it's gold, and you made your own video. I think I've even made a few videos that kind of analyze the subtext of what was actually really going on in that scene and what they were actually saying. But better people on YouTube have done such a masterful job. And when I started to get into the critique mind frame, I really started to turn my eyes towards shows that I used to watch, and now I realize that they're just kind of garbage. Now, this show in total isn't garbage as a whole. It still has some really redeeming elements, and that's the sad thing. This isn't a good show to me anymore. It just has redeeming elements that make me go, I don't remember when I used to like that show. Now, I would have to say that a lot of the guy characters, I really like the guy characters on the show. But systematically, the writers seem to find ways to hamper or inhibit the characters, and in some cases, like with the Denozo character, outright punish the character for being as they are. With the Denozo character, to elaborate a little bit more, he was painted and punished unilaterally as this misogynist and this womanizer. Subsequently, I did look up the term or the definition for womanizer, and I'm always so confused on how people use that. The baseline definition, is basically a man that enjoys having sex with women, and he looks for every single opportunity. So when they say womanizer, I'm like, you describing the average dude. Like, what are you saying? Oh, this guy likes having sex with women. I'm like, that's coming off a little SJW, my dude. I'm just saying. Like, you might want to look up the definition and have a little less condemnation in your tone. Now, that will be my final rant, or at least I'll try to keep that my final rant for this little excerpt. But the primary focus, the reason why I cannot watch this show anymore is because of the Abby Mgtow character and the Ziva character. Now, let's take the Ziva character, for example. Let's start with her. Now, all things considered, for those who are not of the uninitiated, there was a character named Kate that came before Ziva. And then when Ziva got in there, it really kind of didn't fill the void, first and foremost. Plus, the character was terribly written. The actress was, I'd say she was average, but the writing was just incredible garbage. Now, this is back when I actually liked the show. Now, every character does have to have a gimmick, but their gimmick was to have her not be up on American terminology. And it was a weird thing because she was bilingual in Spanish because I believe the actress is of some type of Hispanic or Latin descent. So, of course, they had a part where she uses that. It was a little stupid, but the insufferable part was, one, watching her berate Denozo and having this thing they try to pass off as some sort of pseudo romantic sort of back and forth that never landed and was never properly written. It's like either have the characters get together or just have them separate. And it sort of disarmed the Denozo character because she like the Abby character, being one of the only other two females on the show, was hyper competent. And God, do I hate those kind of characters. It's like, why do you have all of these other characters with these one or two Mary Sue characters that can seemingly do anything? You were really doing a disservice to the audience in the show with this hack writing. So, I guess to encapsulate that, I really liked the actor that played the Denozo character, and I've liked that guy since Dark Angel with Jessica Alba. I was a kid when that came out, and I was just like, this is pretty cool. I actually really like this. And, that was in the early 2000s. And then seeing him in another show, and I was like, oh, they put him in this show? Okay, cool. That's actually really, really awesome. And he was kind of like the suave character, and, he was mischievous, and he had like this gleeful kind of mischievous side. I guess some people would call it Peter Pan syndrome, but that's definitely not the case. But what I'm saying is that watching this character that you liked, any character, bend the knee to this inferior character, this inferiorly written character that's not fleshed out, watching her, like her bad martial arts, the bad fight choreography, her taking down dudes like twice her size. It's because she's a Israeli, she's a ex Mossad or currently Mossad or whatever, so she has special training. It's like, what an ass pull. Special training. It. I'm not gonna rant about it. I'm not falling into that bamboo spike trap. Moving on. But nothing could prepare me for the biggest Mary Sue that I could have ever conceived of back then, and still pretty much now, the Abby Shuto character. I really don't know how to approach this, because every time I noticed that there was an ass pool in any of the shows that me and my family would watch, I was always barraged or berated or accused of just not liking the character because she's a woman. Yeah, even back then, like way before I learned about Mgtow, I had that thinking. I mean, it's like anybody can recognize a blatant ass pull in a show. Anybody can recognize when someone's just handed the win simply because of their lady parts, and this was no different. So I guess I was lying when I said this would be the previous rant would be the only one, because I can't think of any other way to really convey the character, or lack thereof, without a rant. So basically, she is her abilities. She's not a character. She has no literal substance. I believe, binge watching the show and watching so many seasons, I learned the least about the character Abby Shuto. I knew some background on each of the characters. Like Ziva was she's Israeli and she's ex-Mossad. Gibbs was in the military. His family was killed by some Mexican cartel because they accidentally witnessed a murder. I forget where Denozo was from, but that really wasn't like his character. Maybe he wasn't as fleshed out as I think he was. But anyway, all of the characters, as I've listed them, have some relevant backstories. And then I think Abby's just the complete opposite. It's like Superman if we only knew about his powers and nothing else. We really, like, we know his name. Oh, his name is Superman. It's like if that's all you had to go on, the old cartoons where it's like leaping tall buildings in a single bound, faster than a speeding bullet. If that's all we knew about Superman, would you say that's a well-developed character? No, you wouldn't. But let me go down the list of her, of the charges I lay upon thee of Mary Sudom. Like a Disney princess, she has no parents. She was raised in foster care. They even had some kind of subplot that was dedicated in one episode to showing that she had a half-brother and then revealing that she didn't have parents. So she's a strong, independent woman. She's also the best hacker on the planet. Why no one's tried to poach her or offer her more money? Actually, I think that was actually in an episode where they were trying to someone was trying to hire her exclusively and get her to leave NCIS, but she's just so darn lovable and adorable, she wouldn't leave her family. And the other problem with her being the best hacker in the group is because you have to have a group effort. That's what made the show good in the first place, when it was good, arguably. It's kind of like G.I. Joe. Every character has a gimmick, every character has a niche, and they all have an expertise, and that's why they are a group, because when one doesn't know how to do something, the other one does. That's why they're a team. But this completely defies the very notion of the team. It was like whoever wrote this character just wanted to just give her all of the advantages, like Star Wars Mary Sue Ray. She also drives the coolest car to boot. I mean, it's this really tricked out old school muscle car. And they even had a line, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, about how she does her own maintenance and she does all her own mechanics. How someone in foster care would know how to do this? I mean, just what did she pick up? Just mechanics for dummies? But either way, she wouldn't need to, because she's the Mary Sue of the NCIS universe. She literally will do whatever she wants. Episode after episode, she'll have complete defiance to whatever she's told because she thinks it's the right thing to do. And her defiance will always be flipped by the end of the episode as her having it either figured out inadvertently or deliberately, that she had the plan all along. What about combat skills, you ask? I can hear you beaming it to my brain through the ether. Well, she's got that covered too. And so do the writers, because every time she has to take out somebody just arguably at least twice her strength, or one time her strength, or just completely out of the realms of sanity as far as her assailing someone so much bigger, just have a cutaway scene, which they would always do. They had one episode where this professional, get it, professional assassin was there to kill her. He tried a number of different ways, and when he had her alone in a van, what does she use to stop this professional assassin? A rape whistle. Now, of course, they didn't say rape whistle because that would be depowering in some point. So anyway, you hear the guy screaming, the van door flings open, and she's tasing him. And then she's saying, "I'm not done with you yet," and she's telling the rest of the guys in her little group or squad, "Don't look at my skirt." And it's like, oh my goodness, you freaking narcissist. Whew, okay, that was a good one. So I was gonna give the last one, but another one just popped up in my head. I can't resist from telling this one and kind of interrupting the flow. I apologize, but anyway, she dates the differently abled. There was a man suffering from, I want to say he was a dwarf. Whatever Peter Dinklage has, I don't want to say that with any kind of like condemnation or any kind of, I don't want to be derogatory in the slightest, but that's how good she is. That's how awesome of a girl she is. She'll date anybody, literally anybody, except for McGee, who's permanently friend zoned. So they had this 3 or 4 episode, like it was just like 1 or 2 episodes where she runs into a guy, and a guy they kind of get together, and she needed some piece of equipment, and he's like, "Hey, yeah, I actually know about that." "Oh, wow, you know about that? We have a mutual interest." And then it was revealed that, he's a little person, and then later on they just have some throwaway line about how like he was intimidated by dating her, and he was just so intimidated that he called it off and he didn't want to date her anymore. Now the cherry on top of this Mary Sue Sunday, the thing I find to be the worst offense was this one episode where they all get called into work. And since it was everybody's day off, I forget why, it was just like nobody was supposed to be in the office at that time, so they got called in. And another thing springs to mind, sorry to say, quick segue, is the fact that she never is dressed appropriately. She's always wearing her goth cosplay, her poser goth cosplay, in the office during office hours, and the only semblance of any kind of work uniform adherence is her wearing a lab coat. The relevance with that was in this episode, when she walks in, everybody knows that she's wearing construction worker attire, in that she's wearing a hard hat, she's got a tool belt, and she's wearing overalls. And then they hit us with the line when they ask, "Why are you dressed like that?" She was, in her spare time, with her weekends, she does nothing but charitable work. She was doing Habitat for Humanity and literally building houses for the homeless. This really grinded my teeth. I think I punched a hole in the wall and discovered I had freaking super strength. That's how pissed off I was watching this chicanery. In summation, the reason why I really take issue when I watch this kind of content and I see this kind of bad writing is because it's supposed to be rooted in realism. When they spew all of that forensic tech jargon at us, we're kind of like, oh, well, that's a big word. I guess, they know what they're talking about. But to see this blatantly half-assed character passed off as the wunderkind, and that's just better than everybody just because, is infuriating. The first time I ever encountered this was when I was watching Invader Zim. We bought the DVDs. This is after the show had ended, and we were all really sad because we weren't going to be able to watch any new episodes. So we would just continue to watch Invader Zim on the DVDs. And then I noticed the pattern with Gaz, and I never really liked Gaz because I don't like, if you've watched anything on Big Sisters, I think I have one video on Big Sisters on this channel. Look it up. It's actually a really funny backstory. But I don't like sisters I don't like characters who a sister character being mean to their brother character, because it's completely unnecessary, and it's this kind of like, it's where it starts, in my opinion. There's this berating of the male character for just being a male, and that's just not acceptable. But anyway, getting back on it with Invader Zim, there was an episode where all of a sudden she could just pilot and usurp and hack Irking technology to save the day so they could get to this pizza place so that they could meet up with their dad. Of course, the running gag was like, yeah, he's only got so much time to be with his kids, and even then it wasn't in person, it was this little hover TV or whatever. But anyway, I just kind of pointed the finger and I was just like, why does Gaz always win? Like, how come she's just, like, she always wins? I don't like that. I was barely into my 20s and I really couldn't quantify that. But long story short, the counter to this was like, oh, you just don't like seeing women win. And I was like, women? What do you mean? And they're like, well, it's because she's a girl. And I was just like, I had no frame of reference to even wrap my head around such an accusation, because I was like, no, just because she plays video games doesn't mean she's going to be able to understand, alien code, let alone hack that alien code, let alone know what she's hacking in order to take over this sophisticated machine. So, and then they're like, well, it's one of Zim's like machines. I was like, no, that's Irken tech. All of that's like set up. He just utilizes the equipment. Anyway, it was an unfortunate merry-go-round, which they eventually circled back to telling me that, oh, it's because I have a problem with seeing a girl winning. So that's pretty much it. So, with that little segue aside, with that summation now being said, this is why I cannot watch the NCIS show anymore. I can't ignore you've watched it, you can't unwatch it. I can't unsee the bad writing now, and it's ruined the show for me, and I can't continue to watch. Now, have any of you out there been watching the show? Do you still like the show? Do you enjoy the show at all? Does this change your opinion? Please let me know. If you've got any episodes for me to watch that are actually really good that you think might change my mind, you know what? Just look it up for me and send it to me, or send me a message, direct message, or even leave a comment down below. I will see you guys in the next one.
Do it! Do it! Do it!